Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much. Your Holiness, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It is a distinct honor for me to meet you again and to bring this delegation of people from Washington State here to Dharamsala. And it is also a great joy for us to have many Washingtonians, over 1,500, who are sitting at 6 different colleges and universities and community centers right now and are watching this conversation live. And specifically, we have Seattle University and Evergreen State College, where we have a 2-way video feed. And we also have Skagit Valley Community College, Edmond Center for the Arts, Gonzaga University, and Whitman College. In addition, of course, we have many others, thousands who are watching this in our state on the internet. When I met with you last year, you were so generous to spend some time with me, and we expressed our desire to once again connect you and your message of compassion with our state. And when you came in 2008, the meetings that you had led to very important results, including the creation of the Compassion Scholars Program, which today we have 6 young people who are here that are Compassion Scholars. We have the adoption of your social and emotional and ethical learning curriculum in Denny Middle School in Seattle, and we are now looking for how we can extend that throughout our state, which is very important. And Seattle was the first city to adopt a compassion charter. These are all the results of your visit in 2008. So today we are here so that we can have a conversation with you as we begin a new decade. How can we make America and Washington State compassionate in the 2020s? We're here to introduce you to these young scholars who have been selected because of their commitment to compassion, so they can explain their projects to you and get your advice and blessing. And we were here this week to visit institutions such as the Central Tibetan Administration, the Medical Institute, the Nying Thap Ling Center for those with disabilities, which is so meaningful to me personally, and the Tibetan Children's Village, so that we can learn how you have brought compassion to action. So I want to say thank you for your time and your love and your generosity, and I appreciate your words today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Firstly, I really, as I feel this opportunity very useful, because one of my commitment is, number one commitment is, I consider I am just one human being, one out of 7 billion human beings. So then, entire human being, when they were young, very honest, they very much sort of enjoy mother's affection and friends' affection, and the children among themselves occasionally may fight, but child always, you see, playful and smiling. They don't care what nationality, what religious faith. So I consider very young age, say 5, 6, 7-year-old, the real human nature very much alive. Now then, once we join education, then existing education not adequate, you see, to teach children warm-heartedness is key factor for happy life and a happy community. So these days I expressing in modern education we should include education about our emotion, about our mind. So from kindergarten level up to university level, while we teach hygiene of this physical, we should include hygiene of emotion from kindergarten level up to university level. Then people from childhood, the basic human nature, warm-heartedness, and is a sense of, I think, sense of oneness among the children there. Now these, through education, we should also take care and further increase. Then warm-heartedness from birth we already have. Now through education, use our intelligence, our warm-heartedness is very important for one's own happiness or happy family, and through that way also is very helpful for health. Peaceful mind. Some scientists, of course, almost now 40 years, I have sort of close also the contact or interaction with number of scientists. So some scientists say constant anger, fear, hatred is actually eating our immune system. Other hand, more peaceful mind, calm mind, very helpful to maintain immune system. So the health viewpoint also is calm mind. Very useful, very important. And then perhaps I may say, my face always smile. Not like that. So that also I feel from childhood I practice altruism. And now I think over 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, I practice these things daily. Oh, this morning I have one dream, you see, telling some people about altruism. So, warm-heartedness here. And then, entire phenomena appears you more positive. Too much self-centered sort of mind. Just think me. Then entire phenomena appears something negative and fear. So therefore, the altruism is not only something important according to religious sort of tradition, but health viewpoint and happy society. And finally, happy world, happy humanity. Warm-heartedness is the key factor. And this human wonderful brain should cooperate with warm-heartedness. The human intelligence, very helpful to analyze the self-centered attitude. What's the benefit? Self-centered, these short-sighted. narrow-minded. Think other, altruism, that really wise. So human intelligence must combine with warm-heartedness. Sometimes without warm-heartedness and full suspicion, anger, then intelligence, wonderful human brain, wonderful human intelligence, they sometimes become more dangerous. And then, other hand, just warm-heartedness without properly used intelligence, that also is limited. So we have this wonderful brain. You see, that combined with warm-heartedness, then the individual level, you become a very happy, sound-minded person. Then wherever that person live, immediately create some peaceful, happy atmosphere. So through that way, happy community we can develop. Now today's reality, when we use community, then entire 7 billion human beings are one human community. East, you see, depend west, west depend east. Similarly, north and south. And then all 7 billion human beings, unless one human being with some third eye, then we feel, oh, something different. Otherwise, you see, we emotionally, physically, and mentally, all are same. So now, my number one commitment is try to promote basic human value. That also is, according to Indian tradition, not based on religion, but secular way. So whether believer or non-believer, within believer, this belief, that is personal matter. The warm-heartedness is the some important thing about entire humanity. Religion, individual. Whether you accept religion or not, that's up to individual. So, a secular way. And then also, you see, I'm talking on these things as a sort of academic subject, non-religious subject. How to create happy human society, happy family, and a happy individual, and including physical health. So, sometimes I have a little bit sort of critical view, existing education system, not much talk, these things. So now you have some program. Oh, it's wonderful. I very much appreciate. I think I can express my appreciation on behalf of millions of people and animals who really, you see, want kindness or affection. Firstly, human being on this planet. So many human beings suffer. Firstly, through violence, and also gap rich and poor. We are same human being, same right. All have same right, but make some discrimination. And I think much related with my nation, my religious faith. So now, at this moment, my sort of commitment is try to promote sense of oneness of humanity. That's very important. That's one thing. So you already committed these things. So I very much appreciate. Then my second commitment is religious harmony. All major religious traditions carry the same message of love. With that, message of forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline. All major religious traditions, in spite different philosophy. I think fundamental differences, some say there is God, creator, like in some Indian tradition, one part of Sanghyasm, and then Jainism, Buddhism, no creator. We are quite sinful. Bishop Tutu say, I always consider him senior spiritual brother. Really wonderful. We become so sort of intimacy or close friend. So whenever we met, he always described me mischievous Dalai Lama. And then I returned mischievous bishop. So the several occasions. Then here also, so one time, 3 days we talk about compassion or these things. Then at one occasion, he teased me. He, as a Christian, believe God, so he ready go to heaven. Dalai Lama go something different place. So strictly speaking, you see, non-believer about God, so very sinful, so go down. So in spite, you see, different philosophy, all religion carry the message of love. So, different method, it's relevant, necessary. People, different area, different sort of, including climate condition, it's in different culture. So, different mental disposition. So to some people, a certain philosophical view is more effective. To some people, a certain different philosophical view is more effective. So that is method. Important is the real message, and all different traditions carry same message. So that is the basis. You see, we can develop genuine harmony among the different traditions. Now here, India is the example. Here, in this country, over a billion populated nation. So before Christian, Judaism, Islam come here, India already have different tradition. I think the main India's sort of message is non-violence, ahimsa, non-violence. Very good. Then, in order to carry non-violence faithfully, karuna. Karuna means compassion. So over 3,000 years, that's India's message. Message of love, message of non-violence. So, because of that, eventually, a religion from outside India, Judeo-Christian tradition, Islam, and now I always telling Zorazuddin in Bombay, the Parsi, less than 100,000 population. Bombay, big city, I think over a million Christian, Muslim, Hindu, less than 100,000 population. You see, remain very happily, no fear. That's, I think, one example of India. So now this country, over 2,000 years, you see, according to the concept of non-violence and compassion, the all major world tradition live together and with mutual respect, and in some cases, mutual learning. So that brings me conviction or religious harmony is possible. So I totally committed promotion of religious harmony. So in America, you see, I think the leading nation of free world. So my American brothers, sisters also should think about religious harmony. And wherever Americans go, different part of the world, you see, you can carry that message, religious harmony. Then my third commitment is I'm Tibetan people. Around 6 to 7 million Tibetan, they trust me. So I have moral responsibility. Now regarding Tibet issue, about a political matter, since 2001, I retired. We already achieved elected political leadership. So, since then, my main concern about Tibet is firstly environment. Tibet, according to some of my Indian friends, they say Tibet high altitude, cold climate. So once ecology damage, the recover by nature take much longer time. So such condition, special care, take care about the environment. So some Chinese, I think sometimes government cite one occasion when one former Chinese prime minister, because of flood, you see, he gave order, and the place which what's it, the Zangbo, the Burma Buddha come, you see, should not cut forest, deforestation. Very much sort of serious, he order, protect. But private businessmen, then sometimes you see carry cutting tree, forest. So, and then also you see exploit many nature resources. So, yes, it's good to use. However, should keep in mind the caring about environment. That I always telling, expressing. So this is my one sort of was my commitment. Then Tibetan culture. Oh, now over 60 years I spent in this country and met a lot of sort of also the scholars and religious leaders, and including Buddhist scholars or Buddhist practitioner. I noticed the Buddhism which we kept is actually 8th century Tibetan emperor, in spite very close link with Chinese emperor. I say he prefer Buddhism must bring directly from India. So 8th century, the Tibetan king invited around that period top scholar, master of Nalanda, that's Shantarakshita, one monk, great logician. His writing, logic, philosophy, these one of the texts are study. So he introduced Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition. So therefore, now today, Buddha Dharma, Buddhism, which we, over 1,000 years, we study, practice. Through that way, we kept, you see, these tradition very much alive. So now I notice the complete form of Buddhism and utilize a lot of logical approach is, I think, exists only Tibetan tradition. So I often used to telling people, the person who study logic and then the logical approach for such person, whenever hear something new or see something, some text, you see, first reaction is why? Not yes. So in order to, you see, in order to carry investigation, the why question mark very important. So many master of Nalendra, even Buddha's own word, also they carry why. You said that, why? What the reason? So further investigation, reason. So some Nalendra master, some scholar, they rejected even Buddha's own word. If you accept this, there are a lot of contradiction. So we must reject. Buddha taught that under particular circumstances and particular audience, he taught that, but we cannot accept. Here, Buddha himself, you see, mentioned, oh, my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So this is quite wise, isn't it? So that, you see, complete form of Buddha Dharma, I think, in Tibetan tradition, there exists. In Chinese tradition, and then Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, and these Buddhist country, mainly Pali tradition. Wonderful. The foundation of Buddhism and monk. Wonderful. But in their tradition, no logical sort of approach, no logic. So sometimes I teaching, since many monks I know, they come here. So some occasion I teaching them, you wonderful Buddhist monk, but you have no teeth. So if something hard come, then with teeth you can bite. So study logic like that. Now today, I have sort of, as I mentioned earlier, you see, a lot of sort of discussion with scientists, mainly cosmology, then neurobiology, then psychology, then philosophy or physics, particularly quantum physics. One great Indian sort of scholar, now he no longer, Raja Ramana. He once told me, quantum physics in the West, something new. In this country, 2,500 years ago, already developed. He told me, it is true. So sometimes I must confess, when I discuss with scientists about quantum physics, then certainly I sort of humbly listen. But in my mind, I feel I know better. So you see, quantum physics, you see, nothing, external thing, nothing exists as appears. there is huge gap, appearance and reality, quantum physics. So that's exactly, you see, Buddhist different school of thought, exactly you see, mentioned that, like that. So that is something very, very useful. Now, some Chinese Buddhist scholar in China, after they saw some publication here, like the modern science and Buddhist science, we publish here, published, and translation, Chinese translation, English translation, and some other language also. So some Chinese scholar in university opportunity to get such books, but the publisher, no. Publisher, public level, these are sort of published from here, so they control. So some scholar, after seeing these books, then they express Tibetan Buddhism is true Nalanda tradition. And then also you see the Nalanda tradition, Buddhist thinking is very scientific, like that. So now quantum physics, now some Chinese student who study quantum physics, you see, eventually they believe, you see, nothing exists objectively. So that automatically reduce sort of grasping or something independent existence there. That basis of anger and attachment. So in any way, so quantum physics, or these things, you see, we very sort of useful discuss with modern science, modern scientists. So I notice, you see, we both notice mutual learning. They also now very much appreciate about very, very rich concept about psychology, about mind, about emotion. You see, very detailed explanation and recognize, I usually call something like map of emotion, very clear. So these are useful in order to tackle our emotion. So in any way, now last, I think 40 years. So now modern science very much oriented about material thing. Not much develop about mind, about human emotion. So now till, I think, till later part of 20th century, the science not much sort of also they showing. Even you see the existence of mind, they doubt, only brain. Now later part of 20th century, especially the scientists like Richard Davidson from Wisconsin University, brain specialist. Now they accept through their experiment, beside brain, there is something that really affect our brain. So now in the scientific field, I feel, you see, I think further development or progress about more research work about mind, about emotion. So now, individual level, the real destroyer of peace of mind is anger, jealousy. So just take some tranquilizer or alcohol, not much effect. So I think by nature, external things, they are poisons, and the antidote or poisons external thing, there. Similarly, our emotion, whether God creates or not, the emotion, the destructive emotion there. Similarly, constructive emotion also there. Now important is analyze, you see, these different sort of variety of emotion. Then use our intelligence, those destructive emotion, in order to reduce that, we should pay more attention about constructive emotions such as compassion or warm-heartedness. So, Tibetan tradition, you see, these things very, very rich. So, I'm fully committed to preserve this knowledge. And also, I notice, you see, in order to explain these things, Tibetan language is best language. Because before Buddhism reached Tibet, Tibetan language very primitive. But then since, you see, the 8th century, the Nalanda master, Shadarashita, he advised to Tibetan king, since you have your own language, so instead of study Sanskrit or Pali, you should translate. So eventually, 300 volumes, all translation from India. So now, when the translation will carry, the new word come from Sanskrit, then they create new word, Tibetan. So now today, Tibetan language is the most closest language with Sanskrit, like that. So therefore, I really feel this Tibetan knowledge must keep. So there is potential to serve humanity. Okay. So I think I mentioned it. I already mentioned. You see, these are academic subjects about mind and how to tackle our emotion. Not thinking about next life or heaven, not thinking these things. Just day-to-day life, how to keep peace of mind. Through that way, happy person. So that's regarding Tibet. Then, now my latest sort of commitment is try to revival of all this knowledge, originally from India, from Nalanda tradition, Nalanda institution. So my latest commitment is try to revival this knowledge in modern India. Modern Indian, sometimes I jokingly used to telling them, this physical, not Indian, Tibetan, but this mind, I'm more Indian than those modern educated Indian. So now these 1,000-year-old Indian tradition, very much based on non-violence and compassion. Now these, I think, very relevant in today's world. Therefore, first must revive in this country. And India India have the sort of ability or opportunity to combine modern education mainly oriented about material value, then ancient Indian knowledge about mind. So these should combine. Then India can eventually show or can make some contribution to humanity. So that's my latest commitment. So I just share my thinking or my commitment. So now some questions.
Yes. Thank you, Your Holiness. Thank you for your wisdom and for sharing how you're committed to bringing compassion to our world. When I met with you last year, I asked you a personal question, which is, I said, how do you remain joyful in the face of suffering, and you said to me, serve other people, help other people, and that will bring joy. When you serve yourself, then you're going to experience unhappiness. And so because of that wisdom, we created the Compassion Scholars Program to identify young people who want to make their community more compassionate in our state, in keeping with your wisdom and the wisdom of, as you said, many thousands of years. And so we have 6 compassion scholars here who have traveled with us, and some of them would like to share, with your permission,
Yes.
their projects with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We start with Henry.
Sit, 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 sit.
Yesterday,
Sit. No need formality. I don't like formality. This additional barrier. Informal.
Aida Fakngai. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your message. So my name is Henry Ho, and I'm in my last year at Seattle Central College. I have 2 problems that I want to address in my community. One is that many young people live in families where they don't often get to see their grandparents, and it's maybe because they live far away, or like me, they come from an immigrant family and find trouble clearly communicating. And at the same time, there's another problem that many older people also feel a sense of loneliness, a lack of companionship, or they just don't have that many people around, especially young people. And I want to start a program that brings older people into elementary schools to spend time with young kids doing things like playing cards and sharing stories with each other without technology, but interacting face to face. And I believe that love and compassion is a universal language, and that simple interactions like this serve to break the language barrier and has the capacity to go a long way.
As I mentioned earlier, you see, it is very important. We should have sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. I believe that. So wherever I go, as soon as I met someone who drew eyes, one nose, I smile. They also respond same way. So no problem. If I too much emphasis, I'm Tibetan, I'm Buddhist, then that concept creates barrier. So you should think, we are same human being, 7 billion human being, mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. I think eventually you may find nice girl. So no differences about the color or religion or nationality. So, like that. So it is very important, very useful, sense of oneness of human being. Okay.
Tashi Dalai, Your Holiness, thank you for the opportunity to listen to you speak. My name is Kaya. I'm a student from Washington Virtual Academy, and I was a foster kid. Foster kids.
Foster kid.
Yes.
So foster kids are children who have been taken away from their biological parents due to abuse or neglect, and they often they live with other people until they're adopted, which sometimes take a while. I live in a family of 6 children, all who were adopted from harmful situations, so I understand what foster kids go through. The life of a foster kid is usually very lonely, and it's very hard, and they are always moving around. So they need some place to put their stuff, just in a moment's notice. And there aren't really bags for them to put their stuff, so they have to opt for trash bags, and that makes this horrible situation even worse. I want to create a project that makes pillowcase bags for these children that are happy and nice, and they spread a message for foster kids. I want to use my experiences of my past and of what I've learned in Dharamsala, like the Tibetan Children's Village, where I noticed all the kids were so kind to each other, and I was able to notice compassion in action, kids being compassionate to other kids, and I want to recreate this in my community. I want foster kids to know that they are loved and that there are people who care for them, and I want my project to be a way for my community to express and exercise compassion.
가사.
파메기 점경하고 마치는 부
가.
파메기 부 점경하고 마치어체 엔진 부강에 뭐 스테인 뒤 부디게 참고 순 술라 저저 은사자 가고서 보여드리는 진 강에 되어res 다든데 뒤에 강에 도와야 된다 뭐랑 답은 드릴 자시요스 레자 디디 다음 도와야 된다라 본소 강에 슈치고 왔어 사장 신지 보여드리는 진 애님도 죽유 매워다 사제질 된자 매워다 드리진 다든데 인디 뭔데 렌디 베베치소다 하고도 베긴 록다다 드는 부소 냠도 로진 요바다 펜주 제와 요바다 근데 통이 리냠용 통이 프랑스 페게야 지게 가서 포스터 키티 밤에 파티제 이거 되게 혼조로 루 요바다 파도 제와 요바다 지 덴자 요바로 지 레자지 배 차시요스
I think these must depend our own view. Just my community, my nation. And then finally, my family. So you become something a little bit sort of small. And then you see, visit different place. So you feel something entirely different. But here, the sense of oneness of humanity. Then wherever you go, then still human brothers, sisters. So very much depend on our mental attitude. As I mentioned earlier, wherever I go, I always have the feeling we are same. So wherever I go, I always smile. And then if the other person not smiling, then I do this. So like that. So we are same. That's very important, you see. If I consider I'm His Holiness Dalai Lama, then on this planet, just one Dalai Lama. So I feel lowly. So I emphasize I'm just human being. Then plenty of my brothers, sisters, no problem. So mental level, think entire humanity, one community. We have to live side by side. That's the reality. Not think my nation, my community, my family. Don't think that much. Okay.
Thank you.
Tashidale, and good morning, Your Holiness.
Tashidale.
I wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for the opportunity to listen to you speak. My name is Natalie Gomez, and I'm in grade 11 at White River High School. And today in my community, there's been an increase in poverty and homelessness. This increase has continued to spark controversy among my neighbors and friends and has led to actions and words that are less than compassionate. My plan is to work with my local newspaper to highlight and elevate the stories of the homeless in my area. I want people to see that the homeless are families, children, veterans, and hardworking people who deserve the human right of dignity. It's been my experience that human nature is to care and have compassion for our fellow brothers and sisters. So if I can get people to see the human that homelessness has affected, it'll be easier for my community to have compassion.
Karsa. Ran desu shod. Ti gumja sukhi. 가.
외주기 개발직체.
우주공.
안디네 망고지 남에 같은 홈리스 사태 가는 스탠드스. 근데 이제 나오는 주소나 파주 나오는 강에 제 먹었다. 근데 지금 간다 남에 내가 되게 내야 지금 미 두시면 소리가 좀 계속 있고 근데 디도 와야 된다는 거랑 뭐 수수사자라 내자배 요스칸이스는 벤주 그런 양인도에는 미만 없이 요망이 거다 얼마 없이 내진 거다 없이 남의 가는 다 이제 우주계 받아 그런 식으로 이 돈은 제가 말하는 내자배에서
Basically, I think in modern world, people, you see, with modern education, you see, too much think about material value, not much sort of care about basic human value. So that's, I think, our education. I think eventually education should include about, you see, the compassion, warm-heartedness, these things. As I mentioned earlier, hygiene of emotion. So, that entire world just thinking material thing, materialistic life, materialistic culture. So here there are some problems that overcome and will not overcome because of overnight. Take time. I think if we make effort now, beginning of 21st century, I think in education, mainly education, some deeper human value and sense of oneness of human being, these in education, then new generation who come through that kind of education, then will be a little different. So this is the beginning of 21st century. If we make some effort through education, then later part of this century can be more happier, more peaceful. So with inner peace and sense of oneness of human being, then all problem which humanity face is basically they also want happy life. I also want happy life, and therefore the little different things we have to solve through dialogue, not using weapon. So sometimes I describe this century should be century of dialogue. Keep the other person, other party, also our human brothers, sisters. So little differences, we have to, through dialogue, to talk. And they also need we also need them. That's the reality. So much better solve these problems through mutually equitable solution, through talk, not by weapon. I think using weapon, it's outdated. In ancient time, small community, and then, and I think I usually describe, I feel, concept of war, violence, is very much related with feudal system, feudalistic society, kings, queens. You see, they give order, go there, kill them. That's a feudal system. I think each soldier, if you ask, do you want to die for your nation? I don't think. I think each soldier loves their own life. So I think soldier also usually prefer solve problem through talk, peacefully. So my hoping is gradually. Firstly, one time in some Nobel laureate, one meeting, you see, some Nobel laureate, this is Costa Rica, I think Costa Rica, Costa Rica. Now he suggested, you see, the selling weapon should stop as a first step. Then gradually, you see, reduce weapon. So eventually, I think this century can be demilitarized world. It's possible to achieve. So any problem through dialogue, try to solve. We also, you see, regarding Tibet issue, firstly, 6 million Tibetan, 7 million Tibetan, no matter how warrior, how sort of heroic way, we cannot defeat Chinese. So practically also, and also you see, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indian Prime Minister, first Indian Prime Minister, he advised me, you should talk with Chinese government. Then also he mentioned America, very powerful, but not go to war with China in order to liberate Tibet. He told me. It's realistic. So I follow his advice. Then 74, we decided not seeking independence, not seeking separation. So then 77 and 78, 78. So some signs from Chinese leader, they want to talk. So then we start some delegation from here, go to Tibet and also China. And so we start direct contact with Chinese. As a result, there's a number of Tibetan from Tibet come here, study, and including many monk students, at least I think over 10,000 Tibetan, young Tibetan. Some join our monastic institution, some join our school here. Our school also, Pandit Nehru advised me, the important is giving education to younger Tibetan. That is the proper way to keep Tibet issue alive, not just raising Tibet issue at the UN. When I sort of request him, we are sort of raising Tibetan issue at the UN. So if government of India also they can raise Tibetan issue, if not, please support. Then I mentioned we are not sort of expecting some immediate result, but in order to keep Tibet issue alive, then Pandit Nehru told me, real method to keep Tibetan issue is give proper education, younger Tibetan generation. Very realistic. So then also you see he agree, since we have our own language, and with that some Tibetan own sort of some certain knowledge. So we need separate Tibetan school. Pandit Nehru fully support. Like that. So therefore, we are not seeking separation. We fully committed, remain within the People's Republic of China. And that also some serious sort of point. If we emphasize independence of Tibet, then the according to similar convention, 1914, the outer Tibet, inner Tibet, or outer Tibet is those area which under Tibetan government jurisdiction. That's outer Tibet. That area, the population around less than 2 million. Then inner Tibet, including my own birthplace, Amdo and Kham. These are inner Tibet, which is closer to China. So they describe inner Tibet. So since we are not seeking independence, independence, you see, even we get independence in just around 2 million Tibetan. Then, since we are not seeking independence, separation, so we can ask Chinese government, all Tibetan area, you see, no differences outer or inner. It's all Tibetan, which Chinese constitution recognized as a Tibetan area. So they arrange Tibetan autonomous region, Tibetan autonomous district, Tibetan autonomous county, and Tibetan autonomous prefecture, like that. Like that. So we should have same right, preserve our own culture, our own religion, and include language, should have same right, all Tibetan, which constitution recognized as a Tibetan area. So then the population around 6 to 7 millions. So since 74, as Pandit Nehru's sort of advice, you see, we are not seeking independence. So now, since then, you see, we developed direct contact with Chinese government, and also from here, we have the opportunity to send fact-finding delegation. Because 78, 79, delegation from here is sent to Tibet and also China. So that really was very helpful to inside Tibet. Their spirit very strong, and then on top of that, when they receive some delegation from here, they know our establishment here with full support of Indian government. Then you see they feel much sort of, much spirit. And then also, you see, after they return, you see, they told us the high spirit inside Tibet, that also, you see, help us to keep our spirit. So therefore, you see, not some political sort of shouting or thing, but so peacefully, you see, we create Tibetan spirit, very strong. And then meantime, many students, as I mentioned earlier, many students come from Tibet and join here. So basically we call this method, we call middle wave approach, not separation, but within Chinese, People's Republic of China, we should have sort of the all Tibetan, as I mentioned earlier, all Tibetans should have same right. So now, attitude from Chinese leaders, some changing. So we'll see, next 2-3 years, some change. But some Chinese always ask me, I should return. And I told them clearly, I prefer India. There's a freedom. and media, free media, like this kind of program. So from here, I can talk with people from distance. See, physical distance, not much sort of relevant, isn't it?
Yes.
So because of India's freedom, if I return China, no, I think such freedom. So I told some Chinese who insist on I should return. I told them, short visit China. I had a meeting, particularly Buddhist. Now, Buddhist population in China, now nearly 400 millions. So now China become the biggest number, greatest number of Buddhist population, like that. So I'm very much willing to serve them, to help them as much as I can. But remain permanently there, I don't like. India's freedom spoiled me. So freedom, very important. Totalitarian system, not good. So I prefer, telling them, Chinese who insist on me, I should return. I told them, short visit, yes, and including pilgrimage, yes, but the permanent residence, I prefer India. And firstly, India, land of Buddha, Buddha's land. Buddhism come from India. So I'm a student of Nalanda Institution. So when we come to India as a refugee, one way, very sad, we become refugee. One way, our original place, all Tibetan, so Buddhist knowledge or Tibetan culture come from this country. So we reach the original, the kind of source of Tibetan culture, these things. So, and then some question.
We have one more project.
Tachina.
Tashdele Gamubuche, Gaming La Sonchi Jokani, Ngalaptela Shore.
I think English.
Okay.
Okay.
I go to Shorewood High School, and I'm in 10th grade. As a Tibetan, I've experienced people not understanding other people's cultures and heritage, and this can lead to discrimination and stereotypes. With my project, I hope to raise funds and money to make through making T-shirts and other types of merchandise, to give money to my friend and also fellow Compassion scholar, whose Compassion project focuses on making conversations about discrimination and stereotypes, and then she'll go deeper into that.
Very good, very good. Now, generally, wherever Tibetans live, whether in India or in America and Europe, generally, local people very much appreciate Tibetan, peaceful, compassionate. So, a Tibetan, wherever they live, you should carry Tibetan spirit, Tibetan culture, compassionate culture. That's important. Okay.
Dashadale, Your Holiness. My name is Kaylee Myers, and I'm a 9th grader at Edmonds Woodway High School. Like Santri, I'm interested in removing stereotypes in my local community. As a result, we will be collaborating to destroy these borders by implementing a compassion club inspired by our own experiences here in Dharamsala. In this compassion club, we will organize service projects that will help students give back to their communities and challenge stereotypes at the same time by serving communities and educating different communities different from our own.
Karsa. Very good, thank you. Now I prefer some question from distance.
Yes.
Any question?
Yes.
Do you heard? Do you hear my voice?
Your Holiness, they can hear you, but they can only see and hear you. But we have taken questions from all over the state, including people who are in these venues.
Yes.
We've asked them to submit questions to us, and so we've selected some of the best ones to share with you. And so one of them right now is at Seattle University on the left. Mark Marculi, if you can hear me. Other screen, please. Oh, okay. So Mark, wave, if you could. So Mark Marculi, he's the Dean of Theology at Seattle University, and this was his question for you. He said, "You have been encouraging more compassionate responses to the world's problems for many years, and particularly among leaders. From your perspective, what are the most destructive political or cultural behaviors that diminish our collective ability to learn and practice compassion?"
그래서 참새. I think, as I mentioned earlier, our education, firstly, not much take care about our emotion, firstly, our inner world. Then the leaders, present sort of generation, come from that kind of education. So naturally, see, they also, you see, thinking their own nation. So a little bit sort of also they are narrow-minded. So due to that, now, for example, American president, he expressed America first. I feel the America, leading nation of free world, should take care about the global level. So these are understandable, just one's own nation, like that. So I think these are basically the education. Existing education is not adequate. So whole generation come through that kind of education is naturally that kind of thinking. Okay.
Thank you. We have another question from someone listening in Seattle. We will not be able to see him, but he's listening. And this is from Father Mike Ryan, who's a pastor at the Catholic St. James Cathedral in Seattle. So his question for you is, you exude an inner joy to everyone who encounters you, and yet your life has been lived in exile and deprivation with many challenges. How can we maintain a spirit of joy in a world where people, including people of faith, seem to be at each other's throats?
그래서 I think here, according to our experience, not only just me, you see, who practice compassion. One my friend, he spent about 18 years in Chinese Gulag. So he told me, during 18 years, some cases he really faced danger. And I thought, danger maybe his life. And I asked, what kind of danger? His answer is, danger losing compassion towards those troublemakers. So people generally consider practice of compassion is something very important. that really, you see, gives inner strength. Chinese people, as that person expressed, the Chinese people also human brothers, sisters, historically very close link. So for temporary, some kind of ideology, some kind of political system, some sort of problem created. But basically, we are same human being. So therefore, according to my own experience, sometimes in Tibet, there's a lot of suppression happen. Then I visualize some of these Chinese leaders, and I practice give and take. Give means give my patience, compassion to them, and take their anger, suspicion, take. So through visualization. So that, of course, no help to solve the actual problem, but in order to keep peace of mind, my own mind, immense help. So I practice these things. So like that, and then I utilize my sort of intelligence. So if I lose anger, what benefit? Much better if you let too much anger and your sleep suffer.
Yeah.
Your food also then no longer taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it is something, anger is self-destruction. So without anger, compassionate mind, you can sort of create some sort of friendly atmosphere, and selfishly, I always 9 hours sleep. Any problem. And then food, always tasteful. So if I lose much anger, I suffer. So I'm selfish, think myself. Is it try to keep peace of mind.
Thank you. Some of our questions come from some of the delegates in this room. And so, with your permission, I'd like to invite Colin Pearce to ask his question.
Thank you, Your Holiness. My name's Colin Pearce, and I'm an educator in Seattle. And as a teacher of ethics, I'm often dismayed at the fact that the way my students hear about ethics is when something's already gone wrong. An ethics violation, or there's an ethics investigation of a public figure. So I'm interested in what ways we can shift the public conversation through working with young people so that our conversations about ethics become about building compassion and creating positivity as opposed to identifying and punishing wrongdoing.
I think, you see, I think emphasis, compassion, warm-heartedness, it's a matter of one's own health, one's own happiness. So it's a practice of loving kindness or compassion. Is, I think, best way to keep your own peace of mind. So, since many years, I use the word, is we are selfish. With that sort of selfish, take care of yourself. Whole evolution, you should develop that way. So now, we should be wise selfish rather than foolish selfish. Take care of oneself and then think me. That's a foolish selfish. And think other. We are a social animal. Individuals sort of happy life entirely depend on the rest of the community. That's fact. So therefore, you see, taking care of other is the best way to get your own happiness. So we should be wise selfish, taking care of other. Ultimately, you get maximum benefit.
Thank you. We had another question from a member of our delegation, Amy Hadeen, so I'll just pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Christina. Your Holiness, my name is Amy Hadeen, and I work with business leaders, teaching them about the human side of business. And
Human side of business.
my question for you is, you have been a leader for many, many, many years, and you have faced many challenges and many difficulties, yet you remain so optimistic and so energetic. How do you keep your energy and optimism during the most difficult time?
My energy, I think 2 years ago, I visited East India. So at that time, one Indian politician joined also. So within few days, we become very close friends. Then one morning, we met. He asked me about your sleep, rest, and how. And then I told him, no problem. I always 9 hours sleep, and then 4 hours meditation. So my mind sharpening. So as a result, I can cheat other people more easily. that is his response is, he only sleep 6 hours, so he cannot cheat other people. So, I think mainly these things, you see, thinking, the way of thinking, more altruistic. Some sort of our practice, the altruism, infinite altruism, then the whole phenomena appears positive. Sometimes I little bit sort of critical view some of the deities, very wrathful deity, so I criticize them. To whom they sort of feel they show some kind of a wrathful sort of face. Meaningless. So, entire sentient being, entire human being, everybody loves compassion, warm-heartedness. So warm-heartedness is real precious thing in order to bring inner peace and peaceful atmosphere, friend. So, human compassion, I think our life, when we're born, immediately, mother show us affection. We also do not know what is that person, but totally relying on mother. That's human nature. And other animals also, we can see, birds also. The father is something different. The mother really, you see, taking care, their youngster. And youngsters also, you see, their survival entirely depend on mother. That's basic nature. Then at the time of our death, dying, with some gold or diamond or dollar, you see, not much help, dying person. More worry, oh, my money, who use this money like that? Or surrounded with your trusted friend, showing affection, then the dying person feel much happier. So that's nature. So our life begins with tremendous mother's affection. I usually describe my mother is my first teacher about compassion. My mother, so sort of compassionate. I think all her sort of children, my brothers, sisters, we never saw angry face. My mother, very peaceful, very compassionate. So in my village, very small village. So naturally, you see, no toys, nothing. So my mother always carried me on her shoulder. So eventually I found very comfortable on my mother's shoulder. And then I become a little bit aggressive, hold my mother's ear when I want to go this side. This side. If not listen to me, then I shout. So my mother, so kind, so a little bit spoiled me. So these days, I really feel my first teacher of compassion is my mother. So family level, family sorrow as a level, I think the parent, and particularly mother, I think the maximum affection to the children. And then that experience, you see, should carry eventually when we join school. I think school teachers should talk more about basic human value, not only talk about brain. So eventually, now in India, we already, you see, some program, teachers training about inner value from kindergarten level. So like that.
Thank you. Our next question comes from a woman based in Seattle, and her work is focused on helping businesses act in a compassionate manner, actually based on your teachings. Her name is Bonnie Gurlaw. Her question is, how does one convey that the practice of compassion takes strength and courage rather than weakness and softness, especially as we look to address the business sector?
그래서
Compassion 이바이나 디나 닝도다 마디어 소리스 통고스.
그래.
잠재 냠내 징해주어. 잠재 냠내 징해 닝도도 닝도 매버서로 교우로 찍어레스. 닝도도
No. No, that I think is totally wrong. The compassion brings inner peace and also self-confidence. So that is the basis of determination and willpower. So compassion is the sources of determination, willpower. I feel that like that. So I think my own case, age, I think, I think 13, my freedom lost. Then age, 24, I lost my own country. Then a lot of sad news from Tibet. But more sad news come. It brings more willpower. And since I often see expressing our struggle between weapon and compassion, truth. So weapon, power of weapon is for temporary. Power of truth always remain, generation to generation, century to century remain. So ultimately, it's our strength with compassion, with honest, truthful, mutual benefit. So our struggle, this is real sort of source of our strength. So more problem, more sort of determination. If something selfish, then some difficulties come, and then discourage or demoralize. Since our struggle entirely based on compassion and truth, and also realistic, not seeking separation, independence, but within China. So the method, more realistic method, and motivation or compassion. So therefore, you see, more problem is more determination. Okay.
Thank you. Our next question is less focused on the personal and more to the point of global issues. And I'd like to invite Nick Bumpus to ask that one. If you would.
Thank you. Hello, Your Holiness. Thank you for your time today. My name is Nick Bumpus, and I represent workers and their unions back in Washington State. My question is that one major problem with addressing climate change is that people fear losing their jobs, especially if they work in industries such as manufacturing or other similar industries. How can we solve the most serious problem in a way that is compassionate to those concerns for those people?
Now, compassion, concern, naturally, is the entire humanity. It's our brothers, sisters, and we have to think the benefit of future life, of a future of humanity. So now, the global warming, quite serious. According to my own experience, when I was in Tibet, so elder people told me when they were young people, at many mountains surround Lhasa, a lot of snow. Now, within their own lifetime, reduce. Then I came here in 1960. So that winter, a lot of snow. And we also play snowball, like that. Then each year, less. Now, much less snow. So we actually experienced global warming. Then, according to some scientist, some expert, now, within next 70, 80 years, global warming reach such a level, so eventually world become desert. So very serious, very serious. So American president, I think, withdraw from Paris. Oh, I think better. No, of course, I have no right to say, but as an individual free expression, America as a leading nation, I think should remain, and then should take care about environment. Very important, very important. Now, global warming, if people believe God, pray to God. I don't think God also, you see, difficult to control with global warming. So therefore, we should take, although the global warming by nature, according to some Buddhist text, the whole galaxies, one occasion burned, one occasion too much wind and disappear like that. So now, our period, the millennium, the burning. So global warming is some indication about that. Gradually, whole world burned and disappear. Whole galaxies. And then again, new galaxies come. And from Indian tradition, we believe life after life. So we have to born again here. and see some complaint here and there, complaint. So global warming, very, very serious matter.
Thank you. And I've just gotten the warning that you have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
And so I'd like to make sure to ask one from one of the watch parties, the official watch parties that are watching now. This one comes from the Edmund Center for the Arts. Her name is Kristen Knudsen, and her question is, how do we support children who have disabilities that are severe and profound?
가자. 가래. 제. The other day, I met one young lady. I sort of today very damaged, so cannot see. Then I told her, says the sensorial, 5 sensorial consciousness, not very important. Important is 6th mind, according to Indian tradition, the 6th mind, chit. So 5 sensory organs, then main mind. So our happiness and sadness, you see, not sensory level, but the 6th mind. So sensorial, even not working, but still 6th mind there. You see, you can practice compassion. Anger come from 6th mind. Happiness, joyfulness, and compassion also, you see, come from 6th mind. So till this brain remain, this body remain, even blind, or because of deaf survey. You see, that's not much sort of important. The 6th mind. I told her, so should not too much worry, because eyesight no longer there. I told them like that. So of course, very sad, you see, who lost eyesight or hearing sight, these things. But then we have to think, we have to prepare, we have to think that under worst cases, how to keep peace of mind.
Thank you. And then for our final question, I'd like to hand the microphone over to Arthur Emery to ask you a question about children.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Your Holiness, for your time. My name is Arthur Emery. I'm a business owner and an educator in Seattle, and I work with students primarily on their emotional health. And my question is, besides compassion, what's the most important thing we can teach our children to help support their emotional health?
가자. I think through action. And I think, firstly, family. Or sometimes my mother, as I mentioned earlier, very, very loving, kind mother. My father, not like that. My father, you say, loves pork. So in Dalai Lama's kitchen, no sort of serving porks. So I quite often visit my father and sit beside him and waiting some piece of pork. So then sometimes, you see, the fat from pork, you see, put his mustache. Then sometimes he lost his temper and beat me. So I think the family level, I think maximum sort of affection to children. Then important is education field. In class, even without special text, the teacher should show affection to the student and smile. Then let student feel when they come the class, they should have some kind of feeling of happy. Oh, my class full of joy. My teacher smiling and take care about my whole life. Let them feel that way. If teacher may be expert but without smile, and also angry face, then I think student, when class time of class come, student feel, oh now. I think even without any sort of proper text, the attitude of teacher, I think, very important. So family provide maximum affection. Then classroom teacher should show maximum sort of kindness or affection. And then eventually I think we will find some text, how to train our emotion. As I mentioned earlier, we already sort of working. So firstly, within India, I think we will start these sort of text. Then you can, you also can share like that. Okay.
Your Holiness, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. You're so kind to spend so much valuable time with us. Thank you to Tashila, who made this possible, and Tashi, and thank you to your office. I want you to know that on behalf of all of us in Washington State, we wish you good health.
Thank you.
We send you our love, and we say thank you, and we will put your wisdom to work in our state for compassion, for all Washingtonians, for all Americans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As I mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, America, leading nation of free world, and the most powerful. So America, very, very important. Many nations, I think, including China, copy about American sort of value. Okay. So politically, some different sort of expression. But the reality, I think many people really loves America, I feel. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.